Yeah, and that have to lead into inflammation. Must have come up with
Yes.
your work.
Yes, then that's the third pillar, actually.
Oh, okay.
So the third pillar is about healing your immune system. So what we're starting to realize is, see, doctors are trained to specialize in body parts. And so if you're a neurologist, you specialize in the brain. If you are a cardiologist, you specialize in the heart. If you are a psychiatrist, you specialize in the brain in a different way, etc. But what that has helped us do is to help in some ways, but it's helped us not see the real picture in other ways, because it turns out that a person doesn't have a blood pressure problem or a heart problem or a cancer problem or an autoimmune problem or a diabetes problem. More fundamentally, a person has a chronic inflammation problem. And if you want to heal the inflammation in your body, then you need to heal your immune system, because it's the immune system that's going awry that creates inflammation in your body. So I tell people, you got to avoid toxins, don't over-medicate, spend time with people you love who make you laugh, get plenty of rest, get nutrition, that sort of thing. Those are the kinds of things that can, non-inflammatory lifestyle, non-inflammatory foods, real connections where you feel love and connection with people. Those are the kinds of things that create a non-inflammatory lifestyle that heals the immune system.
Wow. Yeah. Have you looked much at the gut and the microbiome with the immune system as well?
That's a massive paradigm shift. And that's really good research that's accumulating. They say it takes 30 years for research in the lab to get to the clinic and actually change. Yes. So it's a really thick stack of thousands of studies on the microbiome now that are revolutionizing the way we think about health. And it is the future, but here we are, and it's not what doctors are training their patients to do most of the time for all kinds of reasons. And so we really need to help people become aware of the microbiome. Like this whole pandemic thing, here we are talking only about social distancing. We're only talking about quarantining and these restrictive activities that are causing enormous suffering and anxiety for people, and even death for older people who are restricted and locked into their nursing home rooms, and they just can't figure out why people aren't visiting them, and so they stop eating and die. There's all kinds of awful things that are coming from that being our only tool. If we were also helping people develop healthy microbiomes, using healthy nutrition to develop strong immune systems, knowing how to change our relationship with stress to develop strong immune systems, it wouldn't be the only go-to strategies that we have. And there's a story, I tell a story in Cured about this Louis Pasteur, who he's the father of germ theory. He helped identify that bacteria exist in a way that we know is real. But he was in a lifelong argument for the rest of his life with Claude Bernard and a few other scholars who said, no, it's the germ is not the problem. The germ is a symptom of the problem. And the whole thing is, why would you just keep waving the flies away from a heap of garbage in the room? Why don't you just remove the garbage? And in other words, we are surrounded by millions of bacteria and viruses inside and outside of our bodies all the time. Good bacteria, bad bacteria, good viruses, and bad viruses. And the only way they can become an invader is if something breaks down in your immune system or in your microbiome in a way that they can then gain entrance and create illness, take over, create an unbalanced, kind of become unbalanced in your system. And so, the famous story is that Claude Bernard took a glass of cholera. The cholera plague was a devastating plague for Europe. And he drank the glass of cholera in front of his students. He said, if you take care of your inner terrain, what we now call the microbiome, you're not going to get ill. And so that was his way of saying it. On Louis Pasteur's deathbed, he said, you're right, the germ is nothing, the terrain is everything. We didn't follow that path, and we need to. The research is there to do that. It just hasn't gotten to the clinics yet.
Yeah, amazing. I'm actually blessed to have married a naturopath who specializes in the gut.
You're way ahead of lots of people.
and over the years, like we've been together 5 years, and I was already looking at the gut then, but having an advisor there with me 24/7 has been incredible. And you would, one of the first things she did was like a case history with me, and to see any cases of trauma.
Oh, yes.
To me
Wow.
from birth all the way through to this moment in time. And when I actually look back and reflect, I was like, oh my God, like I've really abused myself in some areas, and food poisoning and intoxication and all different things. And, you know, probably the last 2 years I've been very disciplined in resetting that and getting rid of leaky gut and working on those things. And it transforms your life. Like
it does.
It's huge. And it still boggles my mind. It's like, I wish more people knew about this, to really trust in it and explore it.
People need to know about this because it does change your life. 90%, you know, it used to be that we thought most diseases were genetic, but now we know that genes can change and heal. Stress, changing your relationship with stress, changes genes, turns genes on and off. We now know that 90% of illnesses are lifestyle related. And that's a complete difference from the days we thought everything was genetic and the genetics fixed or were this fixed state. But now we know genes are turned on and off by lifestyle, by all this, by nutrition, by all these things.
And that puts the responsibility back on us then to actually start to take care of ourselves, as opposed to just hoping for something to fix me.
Yeah, but I also think that it's important to not do things in a way that people feel judged, because I think because a person needs to do what they feel ready for, and to not feel judged for doing whatever path they choose. Because judgment is one of the most disease-creating things in the world, I believe. And we all need less judgment in our lives. I believe that every person needs to do what feels like an opportunity to them and not another burden. And I think that's a really big deal, because for people to get better, they usually need to get rid of burdens and not have more burdens.
Totally. Yeah. I know, I look back at the things that I've learned and mistakes I've made. And I know at that point in time, I was doing my best with what I knew at that point. Same
here. Same for me. I've made lots of mistakes, lots of truth producing errors, but we're all just people. We just want to help each other out, do this.
Yeah, absolutely. Better. And what's so we've gone through the 3 pillars so far?